We're here to evolve the human species' capacity to prepare for the future so that we're not dragged down by the fear-based storyline that's running around in the zeitgeist and the unconscious. That's like, oh, let's not talk about it. No, let's talk about it. Let's bring some optimism and some real mystical, magical possibilities. But before we go into the future, take us into the now.
Welcome to the I Don't Believe in Astrology podcast. The podcast is dedicated to conscious souls looking to change the world. Astrologer by day, climate activist by night. Here is your host, Debra Silverman.
This is the Debra Silverman podcast. You know what it's called? I Don't Believe in Astrology.
I know this. Yeah.
Start up and say, I don't believe in Gene Keys.
I just had to remember.
I can tell you this is not going to be a normal podcast at any stretch of the imagination. There's three people notice, and these two are a little wild, and they've nicknamed me Monkey. So if something strange happens, excuse us. Let's start there. Okay. Oh, look, she's. So this is Richard Rudd, and he's the founder and the inspiration for the Gene Keys. Thank you very much. Applaud. Let's do it like that. La, 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 la. I'm so glad you're here. And this is Carla Johnson, and she is. Tell them what you are.
Oh, you can't introduce me?
I need you to say all those things you do. Exactly.
It's too epic,
Okay, go.
I'm just a bunch of science things and I'm a climate person.
No,
No?
but they're listening.
Okay. So I am a geologist, a hydrogeologist, an environmental engineer, a climatologist. I have a degree in biology. And I've been studying the earth for most of my life. And right now, my big thing in life is that I'm trying to bring some knowledge and forethought to the next 10 and 20 years of climate change, because it's big, happening fast, and we need to be aware of what it is. So I'm kind of your mom. I'm like your practical mom saying, okay, everybody, you got to figure out what's going on here.
Okay, so we have a geologist, earthbound, practical person. We have a mystical, magical channeler.
No
Oh, shit.
channeling.
No channeling.
Not to be anything to do with
I was
channeling.
so wrong.
Genius.
So
Just
wrong.
call
Okay,
it
what is
genius.
the right answer?
Just a mystic is good.
A mystic,
Poet.
a poet.
Mystic, poet,
And
writer.
poets don't channel things?
Also that.
That was the wrong word. I got
It's an unpoetic
Yeah,
word.
forget that. He's channeled. Nope.
No.
He's written a book called The Gene Keys, and it's very similar to astrology and the human design and I Ching.
That's a
How'd I do? Good. And you all know who I am. I'm Debra Silverman, the astrologer that has a podcast.
Oh,
Yes. So thank you, Carla, for starting the conversation. We are all knowledgeable in our fields of specialty, but today there's chemistry about to occur, which could be a little wonky or funny or creative, and you're going to enjoy that completely, I'm hoping. And we're going to start with this conversation about what's coming on the planet, because part of this podcast along the way has been about a lot of people I've interviewed are scientists who have made us concerned to think about what's coming. And then our job, I'm also a psychotherapist, is to see how to emotionally prepare us to be in reality with our mystical, magical options that the mind probably couldn't have thought of without you and me. So you start. What in the name of the future?
Yeah.
wait,
What?
Wait.
do you want to start with bringing us up to now and then go into the future?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, because I mean, that's kind of the drum roll.
Tell them.
Why don't we say how we met?
All right, that's a great idea. Go ahead.
Start.
You
Oh,
start.
how did we meet?
I told you, this is ridiculous. We were at an event 2 weekends
We were
ago,
really
remember?
high.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the Gene Keys and Zach Bush.
Yeah.
And I opened the event by talking about Uranus conjunct the sun that day that happens once a year. And then she closed the event talking about, don't worry, be happy.
So you two are the bookends, really. You're
That's
my
right.
bookends.
That's
Yeah.
how that happened
Yeah.
today. So
That's how we roll.
The passion that I think all three of us carry is we're here to evolve the human species' capacity to prepare for the future so that we're not dragged down by the fear-based storyline that's running around in the zeitgeist and the unconscious. That's like, oh, let's not talk about it. No, let's talk about it. Let's bring some optimism and some real mystical, magical possibilities. But before we go into the future, take us into the now.
Yeah. No, the
All
past.
Earth. She's a sun in Virgo, moon in Taurus, Capricorn rising. He is a Virgo with Capricorn rising. We've got a lot of Earth over here. So
Yeah.
look at this. Okay.
Yeah.
So give us a little overview of what we're sitting in.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of people aren't really familiar with the story of the being that lives beneath your feet every day. And I'm just going to give a synopsis, which is 6.5 billion years ago, and I know it's hard to kind of figure out a billion years. That is a number that, doesn't really resonate with humans very well, but it's a young planet in the course of our solar system and our Milky Way galaxy that we're in. And 6.5 billion years ago, the Earth coalesced. A couple million years after that, we got hit by another protoplanet.
That's me.
All the
It formed?
pieces, everything was all
Find its shape. Okay.
over, everything was exploded, and all the gravitational pull started pulling everything together. Whose phone is that?
Keep going. Don't get distracted.
Okay. And then, so a planet was formed, then we got hit by another little piece of planet that had formed, and that created our moon. We collided together, and that moon was born, our beautiful moon.
Who knew?
And now we had two bodies that were kind of trying to figure out how to talk to each other, how to have a relationship together. And eventually we got into this place where the moon was not rotating on its axis, but just facing us on one side. The Earth was rotating, and we came to this really beautiful place where it's about the same distance from us all the time. Then, in 3 billion years ago, all of a sudden we've got single-celled animals and creatures that are just single cells, just like they are today, like bacterias and certain spores, etc. And then those guys got together and started doing multicellular functions, until one day those multicellular functions that were living off an amazing amount of methane and carbon and other types of elements that were on the Earth at the time said, we're really hungry. And they figured out how to take the sun, the energy of the sun, and convert it into energy. And what they did is there was so much carbon on our planet that they ate all the carbon, and then they expelled or pooped out oxygen. And that's the first time that we got an oxygen atmosphere a couple billion years ago. And then if we're going to just, kind of speed up that story a little bit, humans, all these things were developing. Like, we went through a whole phase of the first mammals, and then the mammals like elephants, and anything that's got a blowhole that has oxygen was a mammal, like a whale or a dolphin was a land mammal, and then went into the ocean when we had one of those really intense warming periods where they had to cool off. So they migrated into the waters, and then they ended up living in the waters. And then about 200 million years ago, humans started walking around and becoming the Homo sapiens that we kind of see today, mixing with a bunch of other groups. Now, the interesting part of, and the story is so complicated and gorgeous that it's really fun to get into it. So I would say people should read about it. They can read about it in my book coming out, because it's the first chapter. But the thing that's interesting is that there's been at least, they estimate 6 billion different species on the Earth that have lived before now. 95% of them have gone extinct. And what is left today, where we have today, is the refinement of those 6 billion creatures over that time period. So the dinosaurs died, but the birds were left. The mammals went into the ocean, but their other mammals came up. And so when we are talking about moving into the future and having any kind of fear signature around the end of the humans, or the end of polar bears, or the end of all these things that we adore that are so beautiful on this planet, I want you to keep in mind that this is the Earth's process. We've had 17 different ice ages. 13 of them have been around mammal times, 13 different warming periods. There are times where the Earth was so warm, there was so much methane in the air at that time, that if you were on the moon and you looked at the Earth, you wouldn't see any poles at all. It would be one big green and blue ball. And then there's other times where in the middle of the ice ages, it was so cold that the Earth looked like a golf ball from the moon. There was that much ice.
So we've gone through so many extinctions.
Yes. So we've been here before. This is the difference. I'm going to bring you right up to the moment right now, and then we'll go into the next phase here. But in the moment, the thing that is different is that we're acting like a meteor strike. So the last time we were hit by a big asteroid, it threw up all this material up into the atmosphere, and then the Earth got cold at some points, and then or boiling it, depending on if it was a meteor or an asteroid that hit us, it would accelerate a warming or a cooling period. And we are taking a normal 25,000 year warming period and reducing it to about 100 years. So
Because of the amount of people.
because of the amount of people that are here and the amount of carbon that we're putting up in the atmosphere, every molecule of carbon dioxide, is the same as a feather in a down blanket. So the more molecules you add, the more insulation you have. Excuse me. And we're getting warmer and warmer. Now, that's not the only reason,
So carbon is warming us up.
the carbon is a blanket that's warming us up. The earth is doing its own thing, but the carbon is acting.
So let's
as a
just
blanket.
distinguish what's so different now, not to mention there's 3 people sitting here inside of a computer, inside of cyberspace, talking about things that 8 million years ago nobody talked about. There's 8 billion people. Think about that for a minute. And every one of them is uniquely different, said the Gene Keys and Astrology. And every single one of them are in the same path, wanting to evolve the species or come down here because everybody wanted to be here. What do you think? How'd that pretty get here? Pick me, said that sperm. And they picked them and we're in the lucky sperm club. And look who ended up here, the 3 of us. And now the question is, it made him smile. And now the question is, what are we all supposed to be doing here to facilitate the evolution of the earth without hurting it? Is that a good question? Not bad.
Okay, yeah. So shall I take
Yes,
it from
please.
there? Thank you very much, by the way, for that brilliant intro. So I guess the question for me is, why is this happening? And do we need, like you said, do we need to be worried, really worried, if terrified? And so my answer to that would be, no, we don't have to be worried, because as you said, Carla, it's happened before, but it's never happened this quickly. So it's been speeded up hugely. And what's happened before is it's happened, these mutations, these huge transmutations in our species and extinctions, and then new species being born. And so that's what my whole journey is about with the Gene Keys, is the kind of prophecy, if you like, behind it is that we're preparing for a new species, a new kind of human. And in order for mutation to occur, there are certain sets of conditions. You either need something like an asteroid impact, which is just horrendously shocking, or you need a lot of heat. Mutation requires heat. And for genes to mutate, you need heat. It's a very well-known fact. So the hotter it gets, the more energy change there is in the system. And you also need kind of chaos.
Yes, and entropy. That helps.
So chaos and stress.
Well, we're good at that. We got the chaos and stress thing down.
So the more you put any system under stress, the more, what are they called? They're like
Mutants.
Yeah, no, they're like there's a name in physics. They're sort of unforeseeable events.
Surprise factor.
Take place. I'll think of it in a minute. And so that is that's what we're creating. We're creating a crucible where the massive proliferation, especially of humans, if you think about it, there's more different types of humans, as you said, here right now.
Ever before.
So nature has an incredible palette to choose from. If she wanted to make a new human, this would be the perfect time. She'd have the widest diversity. So she can then go, cull. I'm going to have that, the best of that one, the best of that one. I'll keep your eyes, keep your hair. I'll get rid of everything else.
Take your brain.
Take your brain, stick it all together. And this happens in the biome, right? This is what happens. This is a mirror of what actually happens in our gut, in our biome, right? So this is like the whole biome of Gaia itself is what's occurring. And so it's also occurring in microcosm in the human biome. So that is
like this new creation based on heat and based on shape.
Yeah, that actually the awakening, if you like, of the next human being is going to take place through this area, through the gut, through the, that's where most of the DNA
you just
is.
Lost me. Wait,
Okay.
just hold on. So
Go back to that.
Yeah, let's just go back. So what we're all speaking to, I really echo this thing about the new human. What excites me about the future is think about how much we've gotten wrong. Like think about the human condition and how you can't use that word, remedial we are, that we're very slow and we're very dense and we have a way of not learning lessons. We take a lot of time to get the lesson over and over. So if we were going to recreate a new human and we could design based on mystical, magical wisdom of the stars, of the gene keys, of systems that have been waiting to be put in place, we could actually look forward to a new version of these stupid humans.
Mhm.
So let me
Yeah,
set
go
the stage for a second. So 200 million years ago, we end up becoming in this humanoid type of thing. That's like on a clock, a 24-hour clock, that would be at 11:59. So that's in geologic time. It's the last few seconds before the end of the 24-hour clock that we show up as humans. So we are learning an amazing amount. When you think about how much just in the last 500 years, let alone, 100,000 years, we've actually understood about the earth, about the sky, about where we are in the cosmos, and about each other. We have actually right now, because we're communicating through the internet, we are accelerating our intellectual capacity. We're saturating our brain now with enough facts to be able to move into this next dimension as a group where we never have been able to do this before, ever. So the genetic changes and shifts that we're seeing, in small parts of the biota, and you're going to talk about also maybe in the biome, is coming in the form of an actual DNA shift.
Exactly.
Is that what you say?
Hence the gene keys. Enter the gene keys. Yes.
Okay, enter the gene keys, DNA shift.
A DNA shift, yeah. And so when you look in the gene keys, you see a spectrum of frequencies available for every part of our DNA. So the DNA, yes, we know it's there. It programs, it builds proteins. Those proteins
We
create
all
our
have
reality.
DNA. Called it dancing nuclear awareness.
Yeah. Did you know there's enough DNA in our body to, what is it? It's like to reach to Neptune and back or
Oh,
something.
really? We have so much
yeah,
DNA.
yeah.
You unwound it and
You
then
unwound
hooked it
it.
together.
Yeah, 100 billion miles or something. Yeah. So think of all that in there, programming basically, and that all of that is in this mix. What I wanted to say is that the mistake that, in a way, that people are making, and it's why they're scared, is that they think that we're separate from Gaia, as opposed to being instruments of Gaia. So if Gaia is the gut, the biome, and we're the little bacteria, who's in charge? That the point is that Gaia is doing this. Gaia, the intelligence of Gaia, is actually creating this mutation, as she has done in the past. Because in order for, like, when single cellular life became multicellular life, that was a massive strategy, right? A huge leap. The spine appeared out of that eventually, and then we did. Seahorses and things in the sea, the first rudimentary spines and stuff. So it's, that's what I want people to kind of get, that you don't need to be afraid, because we're not doing this to Gaia. That's an old story. That's like, we are the victimizers, she's the victim. The feminine we always make her the victim. Yeah, but yeah, we are doing bad stuff for sure, right? Because as you said, we're a bit dumb.
Thanks for.
We're an old human, right?
Yeah.
We're an old style,
Thanks
so
for
we're a
you're
bit dumb. We are.
And then there's the wisdom. Want to hear it? Wisdom.
yeah.
Half wizard, half dumb. Raise your hand if you're half wizard, half dumb.
Yes,
Head, kids.
definitely.
Well, I was just saying how brilliant we are. And so now you're saying how dumb we are, but it's
good
true.
But it's good that you brought
true.
up the word wisdom, because you were talking about facts. We've assembled facts and knowledge, and we're learning amazing through science what we've got to. But science has almost got to its absolute apex. So it started to hit paradox. Like quantum reality is paradox. So logic, infinity is paradox. Pure maths, it just hits paradox.
Like a paradox.
So logic can't go any further. I was joking the other day,
Wait, paradox. Why is that a paradox?
What?
What are we reaching paradox? Tell me how we're getting
Why?
there.
You
Yeah.
define it for them.
Because think of it like, okay, here's the
Infinity
thing.
is a
Infinity. So yeah, someone there, that's the greatest paradox. The
Infinity.
child saying, my little boy saying, Dad, what was before the beginning of the world? Yeah, Big Bang. Yeah, what was before that, Dad? Okay, and then maybe another Big Bang. And what was before that? I just read an article recently by top scientists saying we believe there may be more than one infinity.
What does that even mean?
Exactly. Paradox.
Oh, paradox is something you don't really understand.
Paradox. The logic cannot penetrate.
You can't.
It short circuits logic.
So you're talking, okay, and now I get it.
So
Paradox.
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 Short-circuiting logic. It can't go any further, right? So what happens? What's beyond logic? Wisdom.
Oh, I'm
right?
so happy to hear you say
Wisdom.
that.
Wisdom is not the same as logic. Right? Wisdom is
Comes
deep,
out of your
it's in
gut.
your gut. It's mystical in that way. It's collective intelligence. It's networked intelligence.
Well, it's intuitive, which is
Yeah.
picking up the field, which we haven't actually said in science is an actual thing yet.
No.
So when your gut is like these millions of antennas that are out that you see all over the place, and it's picking up data. And women a lot of times will say, they have an intuition about something. So do guys, but women happen to talk about it more freely because it's not a fact, which guys need to have facts. But it is that's the quantum right there that is built into our body that we don't acknowledge in the
So
world.
what you're trying to say is that there's a mystical, magical influence that the mind can't understand that is organizing this, that why should we ever doubt the intelligence, said the astrologer, of that which created us? But the little mind I have gets all confused and scared in my little emotional body. And then where am I going to go? Oh my goodness, it's getting so hot and cold and hot and cold. And
So,
what
and
about the plastic in the ocean?
the other thing I want to say
The
too,
Turtles, and then those poor
don't
corals.
go into this.
Yeah.
Don't do that yet.
Yeah, all right.
They go.
Is that the one thing that we're really learning about, which is incredibly cool, about the earth, is how much it is like the human body. So you could be reading right now geologic papers that are talking about the heartbeat of the earth. There's an actual continual beat that is very low frequency that you will hear, like ohm. They used to call it ohm.
Like a
That
Schumann
sound, yeah.
resonance.
But it's the center of the earth. The spinning of the center of the earth actually has a boom, boom, like that. It's not at our rate, but it is a sound. They just found out too that there is a layer underneath the crust that is like spongy material that holds more water in that than all of the water on the surface of the earth. And that's very much like our internal organs, where the inside of the earth has its own hydraulic, yummy blood kind of like fat on the planet almost. And then the surface of the planet with all its lakes and rivers and where the water runs is very similar in patterns when you look at the actual pattern of it to our patterns of blood vessels in our body. And so,
That was his point. It's all connected and we're not separate. I wish we were on acid right now. I think this whole conversation would be so much easier. Just think about it. If you were on acid and you were hearing that story, we're in the middle of the earth and there's a big pool of water and then it's great. That's the missing ingredient, is my mind gets so compartmentalized that I can't consider, unless I was a mystic, unless I was a scientist, had a mystical side. So Miss Mars and Pisces. So if you were willing, all of you listening, to suspend your only human mind that believes you're separate, because that's what I'm hearing you speak to, that there's a connectedness that can't be considered by the mind. That wasn't very nice. How are we supposed to understand this?
Strange attractors, that's what they're called, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I love that concept. It's from physics. They're called strange attractors, and they are kind of elements within a system that you cannot predict, but they appear in greater numbers during times of crisis, and they almost always lead to new forms being created and good fortune, often. So I don't want to, I also am a realist, right? Well, I think we all are.
We have to tell the truth.
So I'm a realist. So I'm also gutted about turtles and all the things that are dying. And so I don't want people to think that isn't a big thing.
He really cares.
Yeah.
Even though he's a Virgo.
No, don't say that.
Virgos will live in their head. Listen to the two of you.
I don't
Wait,
know.
let's talk about water, because water is everywhere. And this is the thing that's interrupting the human psyche, is the emotional component that moves into fear, that can't swallow this intellectual brilliance because the emotional body goes, but I'm still scared. So how do we transfer the wisdom of knowing we're all connected? How do we integrate that? People always say we're all connected, and I know it sounds true, but some part of me
Yeah. Well, again, in Gene Keys, the basis of Gene Keys is these 64 codes, and they have 64 words, and they have 3 levels of words, right? So you have 59, okay? Gene Key 59. You both have that.
I know we're sandwiched.
So okay, I'm sandwiched. Okay, I have 59 as well, actually. Yeah, I do, but not in such a prominent position as you two.
Yeah.
And so
We have the same.
that
gene
59,
keys.
the
same.
it has a shadow frequency. Okay, so it has a victim level of frequency. They all have, right? And so that's dishonesty. Okay,
I read that and I was like, no.
So dishonesty is often it's dishonest with oneself. right, first.
Uh-oh.
So think about, all the people out there listening to this. If you had that shadow, it's something about yourself that you're not being honest about. And if you really look, there's usually always something, right? And so when we find those things,
I did find it
there's
the
a
other
gift.
day.
Okay. But there's a gift in that, so when you find where you're dishonest with yourself, and then usually you translate that across to you're being dishonest with someone else in some way, that then builds the gift, which is intimacy. So dishonesty builds intimacy once you've got through it. So there's a purpose to it. And then the highest level, which is in Gene Keys called the siddhi, which is a Sanskrit word meaning divine emanation or gift, is transparency. That's like complete clarity of, nothing between us, nothing, no lies, nothing, just absolute flow. And that transparency it means that you've kind of reached that state, that transcendent state where you actually know you're all connected. You don't just say it.
And how have you reached?
So it's a heightened
Do
state.
you really know that?
Well, I think we cycle in and out of these states.
I'm asking you a question.
Do I know it?
Yes.
Do I know it?
That we're connected?
Well, I had a massive awakening early in my life that kind of imprinted me with that memory. So I carried it ever since. But
that's where the Gene Keys came from.
Yeah, but many people also cycle in and out. We have revelations, we have epiphanies, we have moments where breakthroughs happen. It's hard to stay there. Yeah.
That's my point. How can we support this audience listening to know what you're saying is truth? And then will it ever stay there? No, I guess the point is it has to move.
It needs a new vehicle.
That's right. It needs a new rendition of the human.
Exactly. And the new vehicle will have a new awareness system, operating system, if you like, that will enable us to stay there permanently without frying our systems.
I love that.
So this is what I like about the Gene Keys, and I might say love. I just learned about this recently, is that for all of us, we're going through this transition. I don't think anybody here doesn't think that we're all fearful, we're all mad, we all feel guilty that, we didn't know about this earlier. We have a lot of emotions around what's happening in the world. And there's going to be so much, we'll talk about the future in a second, I guess, but there's going to be so much coming up that it makes you go deeper into that spot of contraction. The Gene Keys help give you this personal roadmap. It's not about trying to figure out, who in your family member is a 59. I mean, it's really about looking at it and saying, I need to get through this. I need to go through this. And if I go through it, I'm going to get to the other side and create a miracle in my life, which could just be my own understanding. It could be that I manifest something. It could be that I help somebody else. But it starts in this core spot of that. And that's what it's about, is your own self-reflection. Because I can tell you that as we go into the next 10 and 20 years, if we don't have not only a roadmap of where we're going, which I can give you, but he's giving you the roadmap to being able to wake up in the morning and go, I can do this. I got it.
And the astrology gives you the language to distinguish your specific purpose. And the timing. That's what Gene Keys does. The Gene Keys do timing? Mm-hmm. Yep, the Gene Keys. We're probably related in some way. I wanted to show you his chart, but so let's just finish
it. I think actually astrology does more timing. It does more cycles, and which is great. Gene Keys does imprinting.
So this is the question of the day.
Yeah.
So if the evolution of the species is turning a corner, which is what you're suggesting, and the Gene Keys and astrology are means for us to be able to get up in the morning and remember our purpose and have a clearer sense of it rather than feeling victimized or guilty of it. And your job and my job is to study. And I have to say that as a human right now, what's turned me on like a radio, which I start singing, and the radio is, I hate that ever happens once my Gemini. What's turned me on like a radio is the fact that I can make a difference to the species by evolving and learning and studying and being humbled enough to approach a new system, an old system, the scientists. Please keep your mind open and know that whatever your old mind was telling you that was based in fear isn't true, because there's a whole upgrade. There's a whole new operating system. And while it's not here yet, I can smell it. Mm-hmm. I'm really excited. That's what blue. I find blue is a personality type. Knowing her chart, she has 4 planets in the 11th house. You guys have seen my interview. She's from the future. And I can see the higher realm of what is it to be a human who prays all the time, who feels totally connected to spirit, who has a wonderful sense of humor, who knows how to use their emotional body and transmute it, who sees the cycles and knows the systems and speaks it as though they were talking about coffee.
That's very true. Yeah.
Isn't that the coolest thing coming
Yeah.
soon? And so you probably have children that are operating with the new
Yeah.
system. There's this whole new people coming in. So the hope, where my first podcast was Jeff Orlowski doing Chasing Coral. And it was very sad, that film. It won the best documentary of the year. And basically he said the coral, like 80% of the coral is already gone on Earth, which means the ecosystem called water is going to be diminished. And I was like, like, oh my goodness. And then Carla got me over it. And now meeting Richard and now hearing Blue, I'm like, wait a minute. Would you think for 1 minute that Gaia and the intelligence that created this amazing cyberspace button machine in front of us is not operating right now and aware of us? And by the way, the Earth will survive no matter what.
Well, I wanted to ask you, Carla, because what I learned from Zach Bush in that talk I did with him and with Blue was that the Earth has the capacity and the intelligence to turn around much quicker than we realized. So I was wondering if you could say, because he was saying wow, under the soil is this incredible, this mass of intelligence in terms of bacteria that, if we leave it alone, if we don't interfere with it too much, it will begin to kind of regenerate much quicker than we realized. So would you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think in the biological sciences, everybody knows that the real intelligence of the Earth is in the soil.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts, because it's so diverse. It's crazy. If we were to, get down to that level, microscopic level, you would, the beings that are going by you.
What about the ocean in terms of regeneration and those corals and things? What would that take?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a complicated answer, because what is happening, the reason why things are happening right now is essentially twofold. One is massive contamination, which kills that stuff. And they are also, by the way, changing, right? So there are
massive contamination
in the ocean,
toxins.
in the
Toxins,
yeah, I mean, herbicides, pesticides.
That's what's killing the coral.
Plastic.
Yeah, plastics in the ocean. But we also are seeing that some of those microorganisms are doing what we're doing. They're starting to shift, and they're starting to now dissolve plastic where plastic used to kill them. Not all of them, of course, but in that microbiome part of the deal.
So mutations are occurring in the bacterial body of the ocean even.
Right. I would say that question really has to do with when you say the word time. We like to think about it as humans in our lifetime, or something that we will see the result of and go, oh, look, it's all coming back. And maybe it isn't so hot. So we can definitely, by our actions, the things that we do every day, if 1% of the 8 billion people could change a couple different habits, we could start lowering the stress level on the planet in order to let these things bloom again. And there are so many scientists. I mean, some of the good news, there's a lot of good news here, because there's a huge amount of invention that's coming out of crisis, right? We get a little bit more creative every time. Is that there are people doing amazing work in being able to take carbon out of the atmosphere. Zach talked about
The airplane going over our head in perfect time.
The savanna and the elephants, and greening up the wild parts. But even though that's true, the most important part of all of that has to do with the flow of moisture. It's back to water on the planet. So when you're going into a warming period, in the rock record, we see every time a big die-off of a lot of the soil, because the soil is used to, for hundreds of thousands of years, having this moisture dry cycle go back and forth. And so they go into this hibernation. In our lifetime, we may not see that come back that fast, but in the Earth's lifetime, this is a minute, second. This is like the Earth has a flu, and it's
Due time, the Earth's same with astrology. There's big giant cycles, 16,000 years. There's cycles that go on for 240 years, Pluto returned, and then 16,000 years the Kali Yuga turns, and then 24,000 years the Kali Yuga turns, and then so there's these cycles. We can't do time.
And we're seeing corals in certain areas actually come back, because we've stopped doing things that kill the coral, and they respond. So everybody is in this dance. There isn't one thing on this planet that doesn't have an impact on something else. Nothing operates in isolation. If we stop doing certain things, whatever we're impacting that's dying will come back, because it wants to. Everything wants to live. Life is the basis for all of anything.
Unconquerable life prevails.
Yes.
It will never stop. So the good news is we take time out, as a mystic would, and not limit ourselves to our mental body being able to understand this. But we have the confidence that there's scientists and mystics who are preparing for this new generation. And I don't know why it excites me. So I think I'm kind of bored of the humans. I mean, having worked with them for so long and seeing all the downplays and all the operating system glitches and all the design faults, I'm like, wait, if they would ask me, I hope they ask me, to help design the new human, the first thing we would come with immediately is the ability to forgive and an immediate response that if someone hurts you, you say, are you okay? Instead of hitting them. Like, just think if we could redesign the human nature impulses brought with the new operating system. So that's what I'm giving you hope for, said the astrologer. We have an airtight system based on astrology of high road, low road. We've been operating a lot with the low road, but with time, thank you, time, it's already happening, to your point. The humans are getting more evolved. I can guarantee you people watching this are studying the Gene Keys. You're going to go and buy the book. And you're studying astrology. You're going to study your purpose of being here. And you're going to be interested in science. So this is the whole point. We're evolving. And how dare we ever think we're devolving? It can't go that way, right?
Not
impossible.
No, not possible, because of mutation, because the nature always finds a way to create a new form, always.
I love
So
that.
yeah, like if you look at your gene keys, or you get your profile and you look at your gene keys, you get to see, okay, there's me operating at the shadow. You can look at all those words. You know, you can actually on our program online, you can press buttons on and off, and you can look at only the shadow words in your profile, right? And it's horrible. You're like, oh God, I have corruption, I have dishonor, I have, you know. But you get to see how those operate together.
That's so beautiful.
They reinforce each other, actually, some of those patterns that we have. But then you can switch it again. You can see these are all my creative gifts. So I'm only full of creative gifts. And then you can do it again, and you can see your cities. You can see only your highest transcendent, attributes.
And watch
So it's a bit
it.
like looking at a god. You can look at your god self.
And then fall in love with yourself.
Yeah.
Look at this. He has Sun in Virgo, Pluto in Virgo, Uranus in Virgo, and Mercury in Virgo, all in the 8th house of transformation city, like wanting to change at the deepest level, the undercurrents in the shadow of the human and make it clean.
Yeah.
And that's what the Gene Keys do. They give you your shadow. They go into the 8th house, into the Scorpio land. And plus he has Mars conjunct Neptune in Scorpio up here on the top of the chart. There we go, Scorpio again. Mars, his male energy, Neptune, the mystic, trying to transmute and talk about mutation with a positive little twist.
A bit more than little, but yeah, it's a big twist.
Yes, it's a big twist. And Capricorn rising, he just never stops. He's so committed. With Saturn and Aries, his life lesson is being pushy. And it's probably not easy as an Englishman to get pushy.
No, I'm
How's
rather
that
the
working for you?
opposite.
It's also,
That's your life lesson.
Yeah.
You got to get a little pushy.
Well, I come to America for that.
Exactly. That's exactly where
That's
you
right
push
there.
it.
Well, I mean, that Aries is really, I'm going from point A to point B and see you
I don't
later.
like it.
If you guys want to come, fine. But I have a life mission that's so focused.
She's talking about you.
Yeah, it's a warrior. And you have to be a warrior to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
Without putting on necessarily all the armor.
Well, thank
but
you.
It's
And having,
big deal.
and Carla has this too, Pluto conjunct the sun. These two people are so passionate. And that's what we're here trying to do for you guys, is to activate your passion. I'm going to do it again. If you're willing to keep your mind open and not get locked down in the mired dark forces that say, I'm so scared. You've helped me so much, because what was that part of me that's so negative? I get scaredy cat. I get vulnerable. I get emotional.
59.
59.
59, yeah.
Dishonesty.
And, yeah. And
Oh, no,
victim,
but
55.
55, that's what it is.
55.
I feel it. I feel the collective pain all the time. I wish I didn't have to say that. And that's my honest truth. And then I have to talk to myself and go, Debra, what do you think you're doing down here? You came here to eat the poison, to bring it into colors. That was the agreement, said the Scorpio to the Capricorn, to this, like, we made a pact. Let's go down there and make it heavy lifting and see what we're,
All right, now let's tell the truth about the future. Let's go.
Go, baby, you start. 'Cause I can't see.
Yeah, I mean, so part of, I think, what the work you're doing is radical honesty, looking into a mirror and saying, where am I going into denial about something? Where am I not seeing something so that I can just go on with my life and go, oh, screw it. Who cares about climate change? I'm just going to go order my stuff off of Amazon and, fly to Tahiti today. Not that you don't have to do that stuff, but there's a consciousness around it. And I think that what's coming up in the future is, from the scientific point of view, There are a lot of models from around the world. They're called climate models, and those models have been going on for many years, where, you know, all this data are coming in from around the world, and they're doing predictive analyses into the future, into generally it's a 5, 10, 15, 20, 50-year outlook. And those models are considered to be accurate when you go back into history using all your input information that you use, and you can replicate what it looks like today. So that's how you validate a model. So you're using historical data, running that model, and that model says, oh, today in Boulder, Colorado, it's 74 degrees and the humidity is 50%. And then we say, yep, that model works. So then you take those models that you've, rigorously tested and project them into the future. And that's called predictive modeling. The predictive models that we hear, in the New York Times, or someone's talking about it on TV, is that by the year 2050, we need to be off the grid. We need to be doing all these things.
There's no more fish
to bring down that carbon level. But the models are saying that we're 10 years ahead of that schedule already. So that means that within a 30-year time frame, less time than it would take for you to pay off a mortgage if you went and bought a house today, the southern part of the United States, all of really the southern band, let's say Denver, south of Denver, across the United States, is going to average around 125 degrees. And that is crazy, because what happens at 125 degrees, if that's happening every day through the hottest parts of the summers, is that the roads will melt, tires melt, the infrastructure.
You're scaring us again. Take us to the
This
big
is reality. I'm saying this is
We need the real bit.
we have to eat this part and
we need
swallow
to.
it.
Okay, so this is real.
Right. So this is real. So that means that there's also going to be a lot of people migrating into the United States where it's even hotter south of us. So we have to find this place in ourselves where we don't use the word Armageddon. We don't use the word, end of the world. We don't use this word of climate crisis.
Transition.
It's a climate transition. It's a climate consciousness that we have to take into our head, because we're adapting, and we want to adapt fast. And the way to adapt fast, in order to help our kids, in order to have grandkids, in order to keep our animals alive and still have a beautiful earth that we have, is to start with that consciousness of, I'm not falling for the scary thing that everyone's trying to make me be scared of. It's true. You will be shocked at some of the things that happen. That's just the fact. But you're going to need tools to work with that stuff, because we're counting on you to bring in the next generation. So you can't take your hands off the wheel and say, fuck it, I don't care. Can I say that? I'm just going to go back to my life and someone will figure it out. Elon Musk will figure it out. Jesus will come. Aliens are going to come and figure this out. AI will figure it out. This is not true. This is going to be solely squarely on our backs to carry humanity into the next generations. And there's a way to do it. There's a way. We've done it for the last 100,000 years. We've gotten through climate stuff like this. We can do it again. And that's how we're moving into the future.
And one more piece. So what if we don't? Let's just go there for a minute.
Okay.
That the species doesn't survive, and that there's a continuation of mutation, and there's a new rendition. But as we know this reality, and our psyches don't know how to deal with death. I mean, it's something I'm in love with, and your 8th house is probably in love with, and we have such Pluto on your sun.
Yeah.
So the question is, another really important topic to support this, what are you going to do about your trust? That when you change addresses, when the thing changes, as life changes, if you really had abiding trust, the way I do of astrology, where I absolutely 100% confidently can say to you, I have never seen a chart ever in my career that I didn't look at the person and see exactly what they were built to be. And it works every time. So that's my trust. I'm inviting you to consider that the word death or change or mutation is not scary. Now, I'm an 8th house, you're an 8th house, we love this. There's nothing that excites me more than the fact that something intense will occur, that will surprise me, that will be a miracle, that'll be far beyond my thought process, and I'll be so humbled and so on my knees that I'll be like, oh, you're kidding. Is that how it ended? Is that how it transitioned? Is that how it, and so please suspend the left brain's fear base, because I think I've been promoting it a little bit. I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah, I think, death is flow. You flow through death, and your consciousness just flows through this, this
So
change,
beautiful.
and it's just built in. It's built into the universe that there are only new beginnings. That's how I look at it. There are no endings. There's only new beginnings, and that's infinity. Infinity is new beginnings always, and that's all nature knows. That is the nature of reality, beginnings. So
beautiful.
you don't have to kind of get caught in those victim kind of fear-based patterns. But it's good that you're being real as well, because it is true that most likely we're not going to manage to stop this. I think it's already too late. So scientists recently told me that if every human being left the earth right now spontaneously, and there was no human beings left, and everything was switched off, all the machinery, it would still happen.
Yeah.
Because it's too late. So,
but it wouldn't happen as bad.
It wouldn't happen as bad.
And it's fast, but it's
my
still
point is
happening.
actually maybe need it to happen how it happens.
Yes, exactly.
And that's where we can't control it, because we're an adolescent out of control, and that's part of the pattern of adolescence. You lose control, and then you grow up. Right. And you change and you become an adult.
And eventually you get enough wisdom. And this is why I love astrology and the Gene Keys and the Enneagram and all the systems you can find to give you back your faith. Because the truth is, this is being organized by a higher intelligence that's built into the earth. She's so beautiful. She's so constant. She's so consistent. She moves without, to your point. There's a great sentence from an Englishman called Martin Exeter. He said, "The truth is true, all is well, unconquerable life prevails." There is nothing you can do but accept that life will continue. So I just want to give you through this podcast, these are three magical, mystical earth monsters over here, a mystic over here, an astrologer, saying in no uncertain terms. I hate to say that I'm excited about this, because I think the transition is going to be very horrible. That was your word.
But let's
I think it will, because if you just described it, right? People are going to go south or north. In the middle of the earth is going to be too hot.
Right.
So people are going to head south and north, and because that's going to be the cooler areas. And so there's going to be massive migration. And the horrible part is that it's going to be the undeveloped, the less developed countries that suffer the most. And that's an awful, terrible truth.
Awful thought.
However, go ahead.
But you have to remember where this is heading, and we also can do everything we can. Obviously, that's what we should. If so, what should I do? Everything you can to help those in need, but not out of a victim place, just out of an overflowing heart. So think about your business, and now we need to think about your life, your family, your place. We need to be in transition planning. Everything needs to be transition planning. You need to think completely differently from how anyone has ever thought before, because you can't
Mr.
predict.
Earth, give me an example. Are you doing that?
Yeah. My family business, wine merchants, wine and spirit merchants, and probably in 20 years, the vineyards of France will not be producing all the beautiful wine that it's producing. So part of our job is to try and get those vineyards and those wine growers to plan 20 or 30 years ahead and plant vineyards somewhere, in the northern hemisphere. So we're looking at places like maybe it's Norway, it's northern Canada. These are the places that in 20 years' time will actually be suitable for vine growing, even though they may not be so much now.
That's an interesting.
So you have to think in terms, but it's like no one wants to think like that. No one is. They're all in, everyone's just like business as usual.
And that's exactly what my book is. My book is about a guide. It's the guide to the next 15, 20 years of climate change, where to live, how to, what are the top, 5 things you need to do when you pick a new place to live. Like water is the number one thing. You have got to be where there's water. You won't live unless there's water. There's all sorts of different things. But I wanted to come back to one thing that we all, I think, hold in our brains as an image. And I believe that most of you out there are thinking the same thing. And that is that the way that we're doing life now, as fun as it is unsustainable. So when you are ordering your lipstick from Amazon and it's being delivered to you, and 3 days later they deliver you a book, or if you are, going to the grocery store and buying, most of your groceries that are being imported from Peru or from Mexico or France. That is so cool that we can do that now, but it is unsustainable. The energy system in this world is unsustainable. The clean water in this, how much we have, is unsustainable. And what we're coming to in the future is, because you're talking about how your genetics are changing and this new human is evolving. Well, that is going to come out in generations, right? It's not coming out in my body.
It's not
coming out in the future generations. But what you can imagine, because this is what a lot of people in the world, architects, engineers, construction people, are already doing, and they are thinking of the cities of the future. And I don't mean urban areas like taller buildings with, no outdoor areas, as much as the fundamental change will be that we will start living in communities. Think of a circle, and with the center of that circle being the center of that community where we share food, it's local, we share water resources if we have it.
Yeah, there won't be any cities, because cities are completely unsustainable monsters, right?
Yeah.
The most sustainable unit is the village.
Yes.
The village,
exactly.
and we know that it's been proven, like 120, 150 people is a sustainable unit. And villages can be networked together. They can have gaps between them so that there's a flow of resources and a sharing. And that's been shown to be also a very pleasant, the most pleasant, simple way to exist on this planet. And it's how indigenous people, that's about the size of their groups, they've lived like that for millennia.
Exactly.
And in
We're
harmony.
back to the forest.
So we are going to go back to a simpler way, but I assume we'll bring some of our technology with us, so that we can,
But they'll be sustainable.
Yeah.
What we flush down the toilet isn't going somewhere else and being processed. What we take our garbage isn't going over there to somebody's backyard. All of that stuff will be used and reused and reused and reused, and energy will essentially be free in our hands the way that we're going to do it. And there won't be manufacturing of everything in the world out there. There'll be manufacturing of the things that we need. It won't be
in your
like,
village.
10 billion
cobalt
stupid things.
microchips.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's live in fun.
We're coming back to villages, back to living together in units and being able to go back to old-fashioned values.
Which really enriches the family.
And the new mutation, we don't know what that involves.
Well, it's a different.
It might be.
It's also like different principles of life, so
values.
if you are in that higher consciousness, that city, like, again, if you look in your Gene Keys, you'll see your higher consciousness. If you're in that realm, you don't really have a lot of needs. You don't want to be a successful business person. You don't, art is probably one of the things that will be important to you. Creativity will be very important to you. Music will be very important to you, because these are like aspects of our soul wanting to be expressed. But achievement, ambition, it's like all of that's gone.
Will never,
hoarding.
Who has the most money, right? Who's got a bigger car?
There won't be any money, because it's just
right. It does not need
it's a gift economy, which is the original economy.
Okay, so
it sounds utopian, but I'm telling you guys, it's actually true. It's where we're moving to. Some people say, "Oh, that's backwards." It's not backwards. Think of the most elegant, well-moving system that has everybody being what's the word that you had? Coherent. But what's the beautiful word? When you had that slide?
Synarchy.
No, but that's another good one. It's where the government or who the group honors cherishes you. Oh,
the system cherishes you.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
Okay, we're leaving it right here. The system is going to cherish you. But the first things first, you have to do the work. We've got these years right now, 2023, 2024. Start cherishing yourself. Do your best to figure out your system, your design, your Gene Keys, your chart. Make sure you've really got a relationship with your nervous system. My favorite part of me. Just being able to meditate and get calm and have faith and drop into deep breaths. We should do it right now. And know that you find your family. We have all the same 59 thing. It's so weird. Find your people, sit next to them really close, cuddle up.
Yeah, intimacy is going to be part of, it's a natural part.
And then make sure that you don't lose your faith. And as soon as you start hearing sounds in your voice, like it doesn't really matter, I've given up, then you go, oh, wait, remember that podcast I listened to?
And when people tell you, oh, climate change, that's not something I need to care about. You care about it and let them know what to start preparing for, because they're going to come to you when they lose power, when they don't have water, whatever it is, because say, what are we supposed to do? And you'll be the person who can help. I mean, you'll be the center of that.
What do you want to say to them before we finish?
I would say, what we said about wisdom, like difference between knowledge and wisdom. If you are obsessed with knowledge and kind of knowledge and information, and that's the only way you're getting to truth, you'll never get enough of it. It'll never satisfy you. It will never make you feel calm. It will never calm your nervous system. You'll never feel in trust. You'll never find a trust. Wisdom, you will. Wisdom is of the right brain. It's deep in the belly. It's deep in the body. It's about embodiment. You've got to do the shadow work. You've got to own your own stuff. You've got to kind of be in the body.
And so the bigger your belly, the better.
Well, you have to have a very good relationship with your belly and your biome.
And that means,
And most people don't. That's the one area of the body where most people don't have a good relationship.
and that's
So take
it.
your hand, put your hands on your belly
Put your
and start
hands
to
on your
love
belly.
yourself.
Start to love yourself.
Yeah.
Put your hands on your
Sounds
belly and
great.
start
It's
to love
really
yourself.
great.
Put your
It's
so
where the-
It
it's
is.
your-
It warms up.
What
the
did I tell
breath
you? I knew to get a
deepens.
little warm, a little funny.
You're a
Okay,
monkey.
I'm a monkey. So just all of this was to say, look, there's 59 and 59 and 59.
Yeah.
We are so happy to be able to give you the good news. And keep your hand on your belly and don't feel bad if it's big. And also, the most important thing is please have faith. Unconquerable life prevails. It's never, ever going away. So whatever your mind was telling you, it was wrong. Isn't that the truth?
Nothing but beginnings.
Nothing but beginnings?
Nothing but beginnings.
Okay, we're gonna put that was so
Love
fun.
you all.
Love you all. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. We want to keep this conversation going with you, so please subscribe to our podcast and leave a rating and review to make sure you never miss an episode. Remember, climate activist by day, human by night. Send Debra a DM on Instagram at Debra Silverman Astrology and visit DebraSilvermanAstrology.com. And we're going to leave you like we leave every single episode. Make it your mission to change the world.